Well, New Hampshire is a pretty remarkable state. You'll know that if you've been there. One of the prettiest places on the continent. Granite mountains, deep forests, clean water. The people are impressive, too. The kids in New Hampshire get some of the highest SAT scores in the country. And it's safe. The crime rate in New Hampshire is just a fraction of that in other states. A lot of people in New Hampshire have guns, and yet the homicide rate is less than 1/10 the rate in Washington, D.C. Very few New Hampshire residents are in prison. It's got one of the country's lowest incarceration rates. Most of them are working. The state has one of America's lowest unemployment rates. In contrast to places like Illinois, New Hampshire is gaining population. People want to live there, not surprisingly. And yet, according to the New York Times, New Hampshire needs to change desperately and immediately. Why is that? Well, in a story over the weekend, the Times explained that New Hampshire is, quote, nearly all white, 94%, and this has caused, quote, an array of problems. The paper doesn't prove that this is true. In fact, there's zero evidence that the demographics of the state hurt the people who live there. New Hampshire's actual problems, and it has some, have nothing to do with race at all. Instead, though, the Times argues that New Hampshire's whiteness is inherently offensive to others, especially immigrants. The paper interviewed a woman from Colombia who complained that she cannot find enough Spanish speakers in New Hampshire, and that is unacceptable. According to the New York Times, Americans have an obligation to change their culture to suit foreigners and not the other way around. But more than anything, the paper says, the state must become less white quickly, like the rest of the country. Its current demographics are an outrage. A group of self-appointed officials and business leaders is working to change the racial makeup of New Hampshire right now. Thank God, says the Times. What's so striking about this story is how ordinary it is. You hear things like this all the time from liberal outlets. Some races are better than others, they claim. Some are just plain awful. Well, that's pure racism, of course. It's the very definition of racism. But it's so ubiquitous on the left that hardly anybody notices it or questions it. You're not allowed to, by the way. Your job is just to nod in bovine agreement. Yes, diversity is our strength. But nobody should agree to that. It's wrong. And it's dangerous. Attitudes like this will destroy our country faster than anthrax and al-Qaeda combined. Racism is poison. Let's be clear so that even the bigots of the New York Times can understand. No race is inherently better than any other race. There can't be too many of any group. Are there too many Chinese in Beijing, too many Africans in Congo? Of course not. Those are stupid questions. The same is true for the people of New Hampshire, many of whose families have been there for hundreds of years. There is nothing wrong with the way they look. They're not defective or inadequate because of their skin color. It's amazing you even have to say that. But nobody is defective or inadequate because of his or her skin color. All of us should remember that and demand that our leaders remember it too. Many have forgotten it.
Well, you're going to pull those pistols or whistle Dixie.